Okay, I've made it to section 20, and this is all on types of cancer. So let's see. Types of cancer. Normal tissue development is a balance between cell growth and cell death. If cells multiply more quickly than cells die, tumors or neoplasms are formed. Neoplasms whose cells proliferate rapidly and spread to distant sites, metastasize, are called malignant. Neoplasms that grow slowly, stay localized, do not invade surrounding tissues, and do not metastasize are called benign. The study of tumors is called oncology, and medical specialists in this field are called oncologists. Cancer, CA, is a class of malignant diseases characterized by uncontrolled cell division. The basic cause of this uncontrolled growth is damage to the cell's DNA. This damage produces mutations to genes that control cell division. These mutations, which can be inherited or acquired, lead to uncontrolled cell division and malignant tumor formation. Thus, all cancer is genetic. That is, it develops because something in a cell's gene has changed or mutated. Less than 10% of all cancers are inherited. That is, the genetic change is passed from parent to child. Almost 90% of cancers are acquired, something that has caused the gene mutation in specific cells in a particular differentiated individual. A few genes mutated within a cell nucleus are enough to cause cancer. Okay. These gene mutations give the cells a superpower to proliferate in an uncontrolled way. Did you know the American Cancer Society estimates 1,800,000 new cases of cancer in 2020 with 606,520 cancer deaths. Okay, in females, 30% of new cancers are in the breast, 12% in the lungs, and 8% in the colon and rectum. In males, 20% are in the prostate, and 13% in the lungs, and 9% in the colon and the rectum. Between 2017 and 18, the most recent years for which data are available, overall death rates for cancer decreased by 2.2% in the United States. The decline in cancer death rates is due to a decrease in smoking, better prevention efforts, new screening methods, and more effective treatments. The cells of malignant tumors have unlimited, unregulated growth potential, grow directly into adjacent tissues, invasion or infiltration, invade the lymphatic system and are carried to local and distant lymph nodes, invade the bloodstream and are carried to other distant organs and tissues, metastases. Okay. Metastases from primary breast cancer. Metastases in the brain, metastases enter bloodstream, metastases in lung, metastases in bone, metastases in liver, lymph drainage, primary tumor in breast. Wow, it can that's very fucking scary. Metastases may be via lymph drainage to the auxiliary lymph nodes or via the bloodstream to the brain, lung, liver, and bone. X-ray of small cell cancer of the upper right lung. In contrast, benign tumors do not show such unregulated and invasive growth. The cells of benign tumors grow slowly, are surrounded by a connective tissue capsule, do not invade or infiltrate adjacent tissues, do not spread to other organs or metastasize to lymph nodes, can compress surrounding tissues, causing functional problems. Causes of death in 2017, the most common causes of death in the United States were cardiovascular disease, 23.1% of all diseases. Cancer is second at 21.8%. And accidents, unintentional injuries accounts for 5.9% of all deaths. Environmental factors, particularly cigarette smoke, are associated with many forms of cancer. In this chapter, we will use a case of lung cancer to illustrate the characteristics of an acquired cancer and to discuss methods of detection and treatment. So we have benign, Latin for kind, denoting the non-malignant cancer of a neoplasm or illness. Cancer, general term for a malignant neoplasm. Cancers pertaining to the malignant neoplasm. Infiltrate, to penetrate and invade a tissue or a cell. Infiltration, the invasion into a tissue or cell. Malignant, Latin for hurtful, capable of invading surrounding tissues and metastasizing to distant organs. Malignancy is a noun, is tumor that invades surrounding tissues and metastasizes to distant organs. Malign, so M-A-L-I-G-N, the root meaning cancer. NC is a state of. Metastasis is a noun. Meta is after and beyond. Stasis is to stay in one place. It's the spread of disease from one part of the body to another. Metastases is plural for metastasis. And metastatic is able to metastasize. Stat is standstill. Ick is pertaining to. Mutation. Muta is a genetic change. Shin is process. A change in the chemistry of a gene that is continued in subsequent divisions of the cell. And mutagen, gen means produce, is an agent that produces a mutation in a gene. Neoplasm is a noun. Neo is new, plasm to form. And new growth, either a benign or malignant tumor. Neoplastic is the adjective meaning pertaining to a neoplasm. Neoplasia is a process that results in formation of a tumor. Okay, and then we have oncology, the science dealing with cancer. Oncologist is a medical specialist in oncology. Proliferate, prole is bear offspring, fer is to bear. Both roots and the suffix, so a root combining form is prole, bear offspring, and then the root is fer, F-E-R, to bear. 8 is composed of or pertaining to increase in number through reproduction. And tumor is Latin for swelling, any abnormal swelling. Within the broad classes of cancer are many subgroups depending on the type of cells in the cancer. The term carcinoma in situ, CIS, describes an early form of carcinoma in which there is no invasion of surrounding tissues. In many instances, it is a precursor that will transform into an invasive or malignant cancer. Class of cancer. Carcinoma, cells of origin, epithelial. Examples are cervical cancer, stomach cancer, squamous skin cell cancer, and lung cancer. Sarcoma, cells of origin, connective tissue, bone, cartilage, muscle. Examples, osteosarcoma, chondrosarcoma, rhabdomyosarcoma, leukemia, cells of origin, blood-forming tissues. Examples, acute lymphocytic leukemia, or chronic myelogenous leukemia. Lymphoma, class of cancer lymphoma, cells of origin, lymph nodes. Examples, Hodgkin's disease and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Class of cancer, melanoma. Cells of origin, melanocytes, pigment-producing skin cells. Examples is malignant melanoma. Lung cancer has 3 main subgroups. First is non-small cell lung cancer, accounts for 85% of cases, and 80% of patients die within 5 years of diagnosis. Included in this type are squamous cell carcinoma, arising from round cells that have replaced damaged cells in the epithelial lining cells of a major bronchus. It accounts for 25% to 40% of lung cancers. And B, adenocarcinoma, arising from the mucus-producing cells in the bronchi. It accounts for between 30% and 50% of lung cancers. It is the most common lung cancer in women, and its incidence is increasing. Large cell carcinoma, which includes cancers that cannot be identified under the microscope as squamous cell or adenocarcinoma. It accounts for 10% to 20% of lung cancers. Okay. So lung cancer has three main subgroups. The first was non-small cell lung cancer, the squamous cell carcinoma, adenocarcinoma, and large cell carcinoma. Second subgroup is a small cell lung cancer like squamous cell carcinoma is derived from the epithelial cells of the bronchi but replicates at a faster rate, producing smaller cells. It accounts for 14% of all lung cancers. Most patients die within 18 months of diagnosis. The third is mesothelioma. It is a rare tumor arising from the cells lining the pleura and is associated with asbestosis. Did you know the three most common cancers in men and the three leading causes of cancer death are prostate cancer, lung cancer, and colorectal cancer? The three most common cancers in women are breast cancer, lung cancer, and colorectal cancer. Adenocarcinoma. Adeno is a gland, carcin is cancer, and oma is tumor. A cancer arising from glandular epithelial cells. Carcinoma. Carcin is cancer, oma is tumor. A malignant and invasive epithelial tumor. Carcinoma in situ is Latin for in its place. Carcinoma that has not invaded surrounding tissues. Chondrosarcoma. Chondro meaning cartilage, sarc is flesh, and oma is tumor. Cancer arising from cartilage cells. Leukemia. Leuc meaning white, emia is a blood condition, disease in which the blood is taken over by white blood cells and their precursors. Lymphoma, any neoplasm of lymphatic tissue. Melanoma, malignant neoplasm formed from cells that produce melanin. Mesothelioma, meso meaning middle, theli is lining, and oma is tumor. Cancer arising from the cells lining the pleura or peritoneum. Osteosarcoma. Osteo is bone, sarc is flesh, and oma is tumor. Cancer arising in bone-forming cells. Let's see. Rhabdomyosarcoma. The cancer derived from the skeletal muscle. Rhabdo is rod-shaped, striated, myomuscle, sarc, flesh, oma, tumor. Wow, that has combining a root with a combining form, and then a root with a combining form, and then with a root. Rhabdo, myo, sarc, oma. Sarcoma, sarc is flesh, oma, tumor, a malignant tumor originating in connective tissue. Carcinogenesis. Carcinogenesis, literally the creation of cancer, is the abnormal rate of cell division as a result of damaged DNA causing gene mutation. Normally, the balance between cell division and proliferation and cell death, apoptosis or programmed cell death, PCD, is tightly controlled to maintain the integrity of organs and tissues. Gene mutations that cause cancer disrupt this orderly process. Mutation in a single gene is usually not enough to cause cancer. and carcinogenesis requires multiple mutations in many genes. Most normal cells cannot divide unless a growth factor binds to a receptor on the cell's surface. This growth factor then stimulates the cell to undergo mitosis and differentiate into mature functional cells. End-stage mitosis. For simplicity, the schematic drawing of the cell at the bottom is shown with only 2 chromosome pairs. I gotta read that again. Most normal cells cannot divide unless a growth factor binds to a receptor on the cell's surface. This growth factor then stimulates the cell to undergo mitosis and differentiate into mature functional cells. Carcinogenesis, literally the creation of cancer, is the abnormal rate of cell division as a result of damaged DNA causing gene mutation. Normally, the balance between cell division and proliferation and cell death, apoptosis or programmed cell death (PCD), is tightly controlled to maintain the integrity of organs and tissues. Gene mutations that cause cancer disrupt this orderly process. Mutation in a single gene is usually not enough to cause cancer, and carcinogenesis requires multiple mutations in many genes. 2 types of genes that have been identified that play a part in abnormal cell division and proliferation of cancer cells. Hey, sweet peep. Okay, 2 types of genes that have been identified that play a part in the abnormal cell division and proliferation of cancer cells. One, proto-oncogenes? Proto-onco? How do you say?
Proto-oncogene.
Okay. 2 types of genes that have identified that play a part in the abnormal cell division and proliferation of cancer cells. First is proto-oncogenes, are healthy genes that promote normal cell growth. Mutated oncogenes cause malfunctions in the normal growth mechanisms. For example, an oncogene called SIS stimulates blood vessels to grow into a tumor and provide the rich blood supply it needs to proliferate rapidly. An oncogene called RAS generates abnormal growth factor receptors that switch on constant cell division signals. An oncogene called HER2 causes many cases of breast and ovarian cancer. The drug Herceptin is an antibody that targets the HER2 receptors on the cancer cells. This cuts off the chemical signals that cell needs to keep proliferating. It also marks the abnormal cells for destruction by the immune system. And second gene identified that plays a role in abnormal cell division and proliferation of cancer cells is tumor suppressor genes, so TS genes. Normally suppress mitosis and are activated by DNA damage. Their function is to stop cell division so that the abnormal genetic structure cannot be passed on to daughter cells. Mutated TS genes cannot do this, so the abnormal cells can divide and proliferate. A mutated TS gene called P53 is present in half of all cancers and is associated with a poor prognosis and resistance to chemotherapy. Mutations in both types of genes are usually required for cancer to develop. The oncogenes turn on the abnormal cell growth, and the mutated TS genes cannot stop it. Cancer is due to the accumulation of genetic injury and mutations. Agents that cause these mutations are called mutagens, and mutagens that cause cancer are called carcinogens. Particular carcinogens are linked to specific types of cancer. Examples are inhalation of asbestos fibers with mesothelioma, prolonged exposure to radiation and ultraviolet radiation and with melanoma and other skin malignancies, and tobacco smoking with lung cancer. Although the link between cigarette smoking and lung cancer is well established, only 15% to 20% of smokers develop lung cancer. In addition, about 10% of the population carries a gene that protects against lung cancer. Studies in 2004 and 5 of the epithelial cells in the large bronchi found a large number of genes altered by cigarette smoking. These studies defined genes whose alteration correlated with cumulative pack years of smoking, and they identified 13 genes whose alterations do not return to normal after smoking is stopped. This could explain the persistent risk of lung cancer in former smokers. In addition, a subset of smokers was identified whose gene alterations have a different profile than that of other smokers. It is possible that this subset is the group who develop lung cancer. Secondhand smoke, called environmental tobacco smoke, ETS, disgusting. Do not smoke around me. I will leave and or say something. Okay. Secondhand smoke, called environmental tobacco smoke, contains the same chemicals and carcinogens as those inhaled by smokers. See? Fucking rude. I don't smoke around you because I don't smoke, but you should at least think about this. Secondhand smoke, called environmental tobacco smoke, ETS, contains the same chemicals and carcinogens as those inhaled by smokers. It's responsible for 3,000 lung cancer cases each year in America. The genetic mutations caused by the carcinogens are probably similar to those in the subset of smokers discussed earlier, even though exposure to the carcinogens is much less than that for smokers. So gross. Did you know a pack year equals the number of packs of cigarettes smoked per day multiplied by the number of years the person has smoked? Cigarette smoke contains over 60 known carcinogens. That's gross, huh? Don't smoke around my dog. People are gross. Several countries and states in the United States ban cigarette smoking in a car with minors to protect them from ETS. Apoptosis. Apo meaning separation from, and ptosis meaning drooping. So programmed normal cell death. Carcinogen. Carcin is cancer. Gen is produce. Cancer producing agent. Carcinogenic is an adjective meaning causing cancer. Carcinogenesis is origin and development of cancer. Different meaning not alike. Differentiate is a verb meaning to change from generalized to specialized. We have oncogene. Onco is tumor, gene is producer or give birth. One of a family of genes involved in cell growth that work in concert to cause cancer. Oncogenic is capable of producing a neoplasm. Proto-oncogene is a normal gene involved in a normal cell growth. Proto is first. All right, environmental pollution. Pollution is a trigger of many cancers. For example, cigarette smoke causes 87% of all lung cancers and acts in the following way. In the smoke are apparently 4,000 chemicals, some 60 of which are known to be carcinogenic and trigger genetic mutations that lead to cancer. Among the inhaled chemicals are cyanide, benzene, formaldehyde, acetylene, tar, arsenic, and ammonia, all of which can increase the risk of cancer. Let's read those again. Among the inhaled chemicals are cyanide, benzene, formaldehyde, acetylene, tar, arsenic, and ammonia. That's so gross, dude. Okay, radon, a radioactive gas that you cannot see or smell, is the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. It is produced by decaying uranium and is found in nearly all soils. In underground miners, it increases the risk of cancer to 40%. It gets into homes through cracks in the foundations or construction joints and is a problem in 1 out of 15 homes. Cigarette smoking on top of radon significantly increases the risk of lung cancer. Testing for radon is cheap and easy. Air pollution may be the cause of 10% to 40% increase of lung cancer mortality between urban and rural areas. Particulate matter, especially very small particles, include soot, organic materials such as hydrocarbons, and metals such as arsenic, chromium, and nickel, all of which are known mutagens and carcinogens. A new analysis shows that premature death from cardiovascular ailments is increased by 24% among people exposed to tiny soot particles. Hey, Goldilocks. You cold? Cold? Sorry. Okay. Oh, yeah, air pollution of a large city. I'm kind of not stoked. Anyway. Chemical toxins are estimated to cause more than 75% of all cancers. Some 77,000 chemicals are used in this country. Over 3,000 are added to our food, and most Americans have between 400 and 800 chemicals stored in their bodies, mostly in fat cells. The toxins known to cause cancer include chlorine, used in drinking water. Chlorine produces carcinogenic compounds. Cancer risk among people drinking chlorinated water is 93% higher than that of people who are not drinking chlorinated water. We have lead, found in lead-based paint and contaminated air, water, and soil. Lead poisoning can severely affect mental and physical development, particularly in young children, younger than 6. In 2014, over 100,000 residents of Flint, Michigan, including 12,000 children, were exposed to high levels of lead in their drinking water. The lead came from the polluted river source of water and from lead pipes used to supply the water. We have polychlorinated biphenyls, with PCBs, which were banned years ago but still persist in environment. Are found in farmed salmon. Pesticides, according to Environmental Protection Agency, 60% of herbicides, 90% of fungicides, and 30% of insecticides are known to be carcinogenic. Farmers using pesticides have a 14% greater risk of developing prostate cancer than do organic farmers. Dioxins, these are chemical compounds produced by combustion processes from waste incineration and from burning fuels like wood, coal, and oil. Asbestos, this insulating material was used in the 1950s to 70s on floors, ceilings, water pipes, and heating ducts. When the material becomes old and crumbly, it releases fibers in the air. Inhalation of the fibers is the cause of mesothelioma. Arsenic, this is used by insecticide and herbicide sprayers and oil refinery workers. Occupational Safety and Health Administration (OSHA) regulations are designed to protect workers from these environmental hazards. Prevention of cancer. More than 50% of cancers could be prevented by changes in lifestyle and environment. The same carcinogens that affect the lining of the respiratory tract cause cancer of the oral cavity, pharynx, larynx, and esophagus. They are also absorbed into the bloodstream and disseminated, thereby becoming factors that can cause cancer in pancreas, stomach, kidney, bladder, prostate, and cervix. Stopping smoking alone would reduce most of the 30% of all deaths due to lung cancer and reduce the incidence of many of the other cancers related to smoking. Clean air. Measures that are being implemented to reduce the more than 2 billion pounds of toxic air pollutants emitted into the atmosphere annually in this country can reduce the incidence of cancer. Obesity is said to be linked to about 10% of breast and colorectal cancers and up to 40% of kidney and esophageal and endometrial cancers. The mechanisms of obesity linked to these cancers are not understood. Chlorine, Greek for greenish yellow, a toxic agent used as a disinfectant and bleaching agent. Dioxin, di is 2, oxygen in chemical compound. Carcinogenic, contaminant, and pesticides. Environment, environ meaning surroundings. Ment is the resulting state. All the external conditions affecting the life of an organism. Environmental is an adjective meaning pertaining to the environment. Particle, Latin for little piece, a small piece of matter. Particulate, relating to a fine particle. Pesticide, agent for destroying flies, mosquitoes, and other pests who are just trying to live. Anyway, pollution, Latin for dirty, condition that is unclean, impure, and a danger to health. Radon, German for radium, colorless, tasteless, and odorless gas that can cause lung cancer. Uranium is a radioactive metallic element. Uranium is also Greek mythological character Uranus.